Hi, I'm Rama from RHD. Today I'm going to do an instructional video on the installation and assembly of our Porsche ITB kit. As you can see, I've got all the parts laid out. Some tools you're going to need: Allen keys. I like these ones with the ball on the end. It's good for getting it screws on an angle. Ring open spanners. You'll need a couple of small sizes, 6mm and an 8mm. The usual larger sizes. Coordinate drive socket set, it's always handy. And you must have one of these. This is used for balancing the throttles once we get the engine and the ITBs installed and the engine running. Okay, so let's make a start. There's a couple of things I've assembled here already. These are the mounts for the linkage. Bearings get installed this way, so they sit flush through the cutout, and obviously there's a left and a right. The little flanges on the outside. The throttles, they need to have the O-rings installed. They just simply press in both sides. So first thing we need to do is figure out the orientation of all the throttles. There's lefts and rights, obviously. Now there'll be two throttles with short shafts on each end and a little flat position for the TPS. They go at the front, and here's the other one. Now we need to have them so that the outer bolt hole is in the forward position. So this one is for this side and this one is for this side, and all the others follow through in the same orientation. So outer bolt hole at the front, shaft facing forward, likewise. So that's the orientation of all our throttles. I'll show you the master lever. To install this one, first thing we need to do is set the stop. So we want that just poking through about 1/2 millimeter. Small amount. Now it's really important we get both sides the same. Now these are left and right, and we want the protrusion on this little part identical, as close as you can get it. Then we have a little bush that goes on the lower hole, bottom position, as they're seen. Maybe simply hooks under the spring. Pushes on like that. Okay, now make sure the throttle's fully pushed closed. And we can lift up the clamp. Okay. Next thing we'll install is the other linkage couplings. Now the way these fit together, this little plate wedges between the spring and the adjuster screw like that, and then when the spring is tightened up, so that wedges tightly in there like that, and that allows adjustment, and the tension of the spring keeps it against the adjuster screw. Something we'll need to do is make sure the screw is protruding at least a couple of millimeters like that. That way, once it's installed, you'll have adjustment in both directions. So preset all those to about the same amount of protrusion. Next thing we're looking for is these ones. Now we want these so that the two tabs are facing away. We'll just leave that loose for now. So this side and this side. The next one we can put on are these ones to here. Again with the throttle fully closed. We want to set these so that they're on a similar angle as the master levers, so stuff like that. We can actually nip these ones up now. Okay, and then last of all, these ones on the front. Again, for the moment, we'll just leave these loose. Okay, now we can install these onto the lower manifold spaces. Now the engine has an offset roughly like this on the head. We want the tubes to the outside, so we'll turn these around this way, and these ones like this. On the throttles there's a multitude of holes. We're using these inside ones, so we set this on here like that. See, it's this inside one here that we'll be screwing it down to. Same. Okay. Next we can start connecting them together. Again, these want to go with the boss facing on the outside. Now, something to note on these, there's two positions for holes here. We've got a forward location and a rear location. Because of the offset of the engine and to keep the linkage geometry correct, one side needs to go in the forward location, one side needs to go in the rear location. The right hand side goes in the forward location, so that'll be in the rear hole, like so. Actually, this side. Okay, forward location. We want these little flanges on the outside. Okay, so this one we want on the rear location, so this hole. Okay, next we can start to install the fuel rails. Now you'll probably see a lot of situations people run the fuel continuously through the fuel rail. It seems to be a commonly accepted way of doing it, but I'll just point out a couple of potential problems that you can have with doing it that way. You have a large diameter cavity inside the fuel rail. Typically you'll have quite a small diameter where the fuel enters. If you have a high volume fuel pump and you've got high velocity of fuel passing through the rail, you can actually end up with like a Venturi effect right here, where the small diameter suddenly goes into the larger diameter. Now usually, and especially in the case of these fuel rails, that's right above the first fuel injector. So you can actually have a problem where the first fuel injector is starved from fuel because of the lower pressure that's created by the sort of Venturi effect as the high-speed fuel enters the rail. So for that reason we do it this way, where the fuel will simply pass from one rail to the other rail, and then from the second rail through the regulator back to the tank. That way you've always got constant pressure throughout the entire fuel rail. Fuel will only enter here as it's getting used by the injectors. Just something to point out and be aware of. I've seen